Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. If you remember, or if you watched this channel a while ago, you might remember I made a ripcord, like a returning pull cord, for this bike. And in the video I posted after that, I said an update about it, and said that when I was driving to school one morning, well the morning after, it blew up, and went like into my leg. So I went back to the old system, which is why you saw it for one video, and then it's never been back. It's in this pile somewhere. Yeah, like here's what's left of it. It was the seal around this blew out, and it caused it to drag and start shaking, and it got caught on the the roller, not roller, I guess. The little rod that it's supposed to sit on, and it ended up grabbing and just locking up and breaking loose. So that was a venture. But now I've had to pull start it ever since. And I'm getting tired of pull starting because as this bike gets better, faster, starting it is more and more annoying. So what I want to do is not make a pull start, but I want to make a kick start this time. Because I'm planning to do it pretty well the same way. So I'm going to have essentially the same system I had, where I just have the I can't remember the name of it. I have this in the same spot, and instead of having my pull start system where it goes around here then sticks off that way, I'm gonna just move it down so it's positioned like around where my foot is right here. That way when I want to start, I can just slot my foot in and kick it down, because that should be able to get enough speed to start the engine. It starts pretty reliably. So I'm going to see if I can get around to doing that. There is a few things I need to do before that, though. I have to get this off first, and I have to fix this, because it has, well, it's not doing the best. And I need this too, because this is the adapter I built. Yeah, that's what broke off. So this is broken off. Focus. You can see exactly where it broke off. There was a rod weld on top of this to act as a support for this section. But when this hit, it snapped it right off. So that's what remains of that. But I'm pretty sure around here I have a different one. I have this. I don't even remember what this was supposed to be. But this has a bolt which conveniently does fit this, because I want to leave the original stuff for this engine intact. So that little pull start thing, and the nut. Now, for some reason, this nut is almost impossible to find. I went to 3 different stores. They didn't carry them. My last option for a store was to go to a mill and get one custom made, but luckily I found 2 in one of the baskets behind the fridge. So I think what I'm going to do is cut this off so I can reuse the nut, and I'm going to have to go steal a different part from an engine. Out in the back cabin, it's where we store just a lot of random things. We have the sewing machine, all the tires for my car and Graham's, a few lawnmower transmissions. That one is identical to the one on Neighborhood Rider, and that one, I don't remember where I got that from. But this is what we need. On this engine, which is some weird vintage Briggs engine, it turns over and it still has compression somehow. If I can get that off. which I might be robbing more parts from that. It's this part right here that we need. This shaft that it rides on, well, I need it because I don't have any sort of specialty tools. I don't have a lathe. So all I can do is really just file down something and kind of eye it up, see if it looks decent. But this, from factory, should be perfect. And this engine is pretty well smoked anyways. Like, if you look at the carburetor, that's screwed. Coil is screwed. It was sitting upstairs in the barn for, I think, about 30-ish years. But it still does turn over. Still does have compression. But it has nothing to go to, and it's missing so many parts now, so that's how I'm just fine taking this. Because this is all we need, and then that should solve the problem that I had last time, where it blew up. So I'm going to bring this into the garage so I can cut that off. Got the engine back into the garage. That's the sticker on the bottom, which is pretty cool. I didn't show it well in the cabin because I didn't remember it. 3.5 horsepower at 3,500 RPM, or 35 or 36? 3,600 RPM. Easy spin. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm still amazed at the fact that this engine can still turn over and still has compression. Sometimes. There we go. Because it's currently that has more compression than that engine. So it's pretty amazing. But now I do have to get the shaft bit off of this. And I'm pretty sure all of these are the same thread size because I know that one fits on all the adapters I made. So I think what I'm going to do to remove this is I'm just going to see if I can pop the flywheel off and just cut along pretty well where the flywheel meets there. Because I need to cut it off somehow, and I don't really want to damage the rest of the engine just in case I need parts, so I'm just going to see if I can get the flywheel off. I got the flywheel off without using any sort of tools besides a bolt puller. Came off fairly easily. Then, nice little flywheel. And now I can finally get to the shaft. Which, if I had enough parts, this engine probably would still run. But at the same time, there's probably a reason it was upstairs in the barn being part robbed. So, now that all that stuff's off, I can finally get that. And I think I'm just going to cut... Whoop, about to drop it. I think I'm just going to cut right where the threads stop. That way I can have all of this extra space if I need it. Shouldn't be too hard to get off, because I know the crankshafts aren't made of like really hard steel. Because I've already, I filed down that crankshaft by quite a bit, just with a regular file. So, just gonna cut that off and I'll be back. I finally got the end of the crankshaft off, and it actually came off pretty good. Force it to focus. The threads are okay as far as I need. And the shaft, man, if this would focus, it'd be nice. There. The shaft is still good. There's not a single cut on that. And I only cut the like the little border between the taper and the threads. So that's all good. And I forgot to mention, but that adapter piece I showed, I also got that separated and I cleaned it up a little bit. So now that's the bolt I'm going to use for the adapter. So they're the same threads, so I should be able to just thread this shaft into the nut. And looks something like that. And that's what the adapter should be. Because Problem with the last one is that I welded this piece on and it broke because it was slightly lopsided. So I'm just gonna clean this up and then I'll be able to weld this stuff together. I just wanted to show my plan for how I'm gonna weld this before I do. This slot for the key, what I'm gonna do just to stop it from turning is I'm just gonna put a tiny little weld right in that hole, like I said, just to stop it from turning. Because I was thinking about this overnight, and when I use the Kickstarter, it should tighten everything. But just to make sure, like, if it backfires something, just so it doesn't come undone, I'm just going to put a tiny little weld right there to seal it together. And you can see I did get it in. The threads for the nut are a little messed up. It's some weird kind of, like, locking nut. You can see there's, wherever these little triangles are is where they pressed it down. So the threads are crushed. So this is pretty well stuck in here. I had to use vice grips to get it in. Kind of see the scoring. So I just wanted to show you how I was going to weld it. So I'll be back when that's done. Parts all welded up. Tiny little weld in there. It's, like I said, the only reason I welded just that tiny little bit there is to stop it from turning. Because even if it does try and turn, that weld will stop it in the threads. So now that that's done, I can finally take this and the clutch and I can put it onto the flywheel and see how everything fits up together. So I'll be back when that's done. Well, it's all back on, and I'm still reusing the pulley I made for the last for the pull start, because it's meant to fit that clutch anyways. It's actually meant to fit this one, but that blew up. No seal anymore. So I'm on the spare one that I robbed parts from. But it seems a lot better now, because before I could kind of shake this around. The only play is just rocking back and forth, and like when I spin it, you can't see it on camera, but when I spin it, like, it doesn't shake or anything. So now that's on there, my plan for this is I want to make a setup kind of similar to the pull start, but instead of having, well, I might have a bolt there, but I want to have a kind of like a what do you call it, like a stirrup on a horse where you put your foot. I want to have something like that hanging at the bottom so I can just slide my shoe in and then kick down. Kind of has to be high up around here. And I just want a little catch to, like, loop around here just so it doesn't shoot right into the thing. And I also have to figure out a return spring, because the last one I didn't figure out a return spring for it, so I just kind of let it be. But this one I would like to have a way for it to automatically return. So I think I'm going to start with making the stirrup, just because that's probably the easiest part for now. So I'll be back when I start that. Here's the piece of metal I'm going to use for the footrest. It is about 15 inches long, and what I'm going to do to bend it, I'm just going to put it on the floor, put my foot on it, and I'm just going to bend it around the corner and leave a decent amount of room. And whatever room's left at the top, I'm going to weld a washer to. Just going to loot some random parts from here to find it. But whatever I find, I'm going to weld into the middle, and that way, when I put the twine in, or the pull string, cord, whatever you want to call it, I can just tie a knot and it'll be hang like right at the bottom here. A knot. You'll see when it's done. What I'm essentially trying to do is just make a triangle out of this, and once I'm done that, I'll be back. I've got the lines marked out for the bends I have to make. Now all I have to do is bend it. So hopefully that shouldn't be that hard. This also has a slight bend in it already. I don't know from what. Oh, how should I do this? Just gonna move you a little further away so I don't get hit. Should be a good spot. My bad. That's worth it. Just see if I can put it there. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but what really matters is if it fits my foot, which it does. And I still have room over towards the side, but the chances are I'm probably just going to be using like my toes or closer to the end of my shoe. I just wanted to make sure my entire shoe could go in, which it can. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find a washer in here somewhere, or I'll just make one out of a piece of metal, and I'm going to close up this gap a little bit more, smooth it out, and I'll be back when that's done. Piece is all welded up. Found some random washer made of like cast iron and welded it all up, and it seems pretty strong. Should be strong enough. It's just being attached to the engine, so it's not like it's gonna have my full weight on it. And that's the end piece. If I get on, it can go onto my shoe for the most of the way, but like I said, I'm probably just gonna be using like the end of my foot, which still gives me plenty of room. So now I'm just gonna mock this up on the engine and see how it fits. I've got it all mocked up, and you might be thinking that it looks a little clunky or dumb, and I wouldn't object to that because it hits there. So all I have to do is move it to like the middle. But I want to show you something. While I was just fooling around, mocking it up, seeing if I can actually get my foot in there, I gave it one little kick. Oh. It actually works. I've really got to work on the kill switch too. But it actually works. I just decided to give it a little test on the first kick it started. And like the last pull start, the only way you can really retwine it is if you do that. But that's not bad. That's not bad because I'm not even turning it over that fast and it starts right up. The backfire was just because I had it set a little too low. So that's really good. And like I said, I'm gonna have to make something to just hold it in place. And there's a convenient bolt hole right there, so I think I might do something with that, because yeah, that's like perfectly lined up where I need it. So, might use that. I'm just really happy that it actually worked. I can't believe that. I'm gonna have to put a little washer on the backside of this because the knots on this rope are too small. But other than that, that's working pretty good. So I just have to figure out a way to keep it in place. And I'm also gonna have to find a way to return this. Because when you kick it down, it doesn't come back up unless you rewind it. So that's a pretty good start though. I'm just gonna take a break and think about that, and I'll be back when I have an idea. While I was trying to plan out what to do for a return spring, I decided to get to work on the other thing that's more necessary, which is a like a stopper for it. Because when I was test running it again, just being happy that I can actually kickstart it, it got pulled up and tapped the flywheel and shot over the top of the engine. So this stop will stop from going, well, too high up. And it's pretty simple. I use the stopper arm from the pull start. I'm reusing a lot of parts, same ideas, because this is all the same part as the pull start. This is the same arm, but now it's, and I mean, I could use this as a pull start. If the bike flipped, I could probably just push it down like that. And that's how I designed it. It is just a pull start upside down. So I'm still trying to figure out an idea for a return spring. And I'm not sure what I should do yet. I'm kind of thinking having like a box and have a lot of like pulleys for it, and just stretch a string all along and have a spring on the other side to pull it through. That might work. Who knows? I'll think about it for a little bit, but I'll be back when I have an idea. It's now 2 days later, and I figured out an idea for a return spring. Very simple. It's just a cord that wraps around, same as that, and I have a spring now on my kickstand. So when I put up the kickstand, it puts more tension, which is good, because as I rev up the engine, it wants to try and turn this way. So with the extra tension, it'll help the spring keep it that way. One small problem. The bracket to hold this in place, yeah, well, it backfired a little bit, and now it's not doing too hot. So I think this was a good idea, but I also think I'm gonna have to at least, if not make it stronger, I'm gonna have to at least relocate it, because this hole on the side, there's no other mounts. You can even see it backfired and locked itself into the flywheel, so the engine just stopped. I wasn't going that fast, it stalled anyway, which is why it backfired. But I'm thinking somewhere more along like here, or the bolt underneath, right there. Just because both of those are further away from the flywheel than that, and it'll kind of stop it from turning, because it'd have to actually bend the entire bracket upwards. So I'm gonna think a little bit more on that, because I might even be able to just reinforce that. I don't really know how, but I'll think about it. I'll be back when I do have an answer. But yeah, the return spring, I can show you, I guess. Ease my foot in there. Make sure not to start the engine. Then when I let off, pulls it right back into place. So it does work, and I took it for a tiny little test drive. And to the sun, I went around the sheds back there, made it to that walkway right there, and right when I got up, I didn't give it enough throttle in time, so the engine just kind of sputtered, and then it stopped, backfired, and that's when it drew everything in. So other than that though, it did work very good. So like I said, I'll be back when I figure out a new bracket. It's the next day again, And overnight, I figured out a new bracket to make that'll actually be a lot better. This one bolted on the side here, so it had free rotation unless that little stopper was on the back. That little stopper was weak because I reused this piece of metal. And it's really close to the flywheel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a simple flat bar, and I'm just going to put it on this bolt under here. Because it goes... I'll have plenty of room on the end of the threads there, if it would focus. Good enough. Yeah. So the bolt should be long enough. And once it's sitting under there, I'll have plenty of clearance for the flywheel. And hopefully if it backfires, it being flat like this, it'll be able to flex. So it shouldn't snap the line. It shouldn't get pushed right into the flywheel because there'll be a gap. Hopefully it should just be a much better design. So, and it's simple too. It's just straight up, straight. So I'm just gonna make that up real quick and I'll be back when that's done. The new bracket is all done, put on, and with that, it marks the end of a kickstart for the Whizzer. I'm very excited to be able to use this. It's such a practical, well, just mod to this bike, because every time I wanted to start before, I'd have to pull out the ripcord that was in the tool bag, wrap it around the thing, pull it. It doesn't start, wrap it around again, pull it, it stutters, wrap it around again, third time's the charm. And once I know it's running, I have to wrap the cord back up, put it back in the tool case, and try to close it. It has a little button, but it's kind of annoying to close sometimes. But this, I won't even have to pull out a ripcord. All I have to do is just stand up, put my foot in the thing, just kick down, and it goes. So, that being said, I'm going to show an example and let's see how well it works just sitting on the stand. Now that everything's all together, all I have to do is make sure the idle is set, make sure I have fuel, and put my foot in here and kick. Stalled it. So it actually works. It not running, it's just some screw with the engine. And as you can see, my bracket, it does stop itself from hitting the flywheel. So I might have to do some future changes to this just to make sure it doesn't ever tap the flywheel or anything. But as for now, I'm pretty happy with how that is. Might need a better spring, but with most of my things, when I build it the first time, it's just a mock-up so I can slowly learn about it and make sure I have all the correct parts, but I think it's pretty good. And it doesn't actually impede my foot from getting on there well. Oops. It's pretty good. So, I think that's going to be all for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.